There has been a plan in existence to create an artificial extraterrestrial threat to this Earth in order to create a one-world totalitarian socialist government.
Well, to our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up. The gig was up. First of all, I knew all about the alien agenda. I'll explain that in a few minutes. The large alien grays had been encamped there for, as best as believed possible, about 400 or 500 years. Had been one of their internal bases. And we'd drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up, and well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really, all started. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the batch and hit the button and took me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted. He lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. The small gray, the large gray, the reptilians.
Because first of all, you say to yourself, why would, let's say, anyone deliberately crash saucers in Roswell, New Mexico, and then allow the bodies to be retrieved? What are these bodies, in fact? And it took me a long time to figure this out. And this is a theory, okay? There's a difference between the grays, the little guys, right, that we see that have now been enculturated with the big black slanted eyes that are about 4 feet tall, all right? Those, let's just call them the grays because pretty much everyone knows them as grays. But there's another creature which people and abductees talk about that they see on board the ships, and these are tall beings, and they assume different forms. Sometimes they can appear as reptilian, other times they can appear as insectoid, other times they can appear as Nordic. In other words, in my opinion, they're shapeshifters. Now, why would I say that? What backs it up? There's a scripture, once again, from our spiritual handbook, which says that basically fallen angels can appear as angels of light if they so choose. Okay. They can appear as angels of light if they so choose. That's a shapeshifter, but it shapeshifts. It can appear as whatever it wants to appear. Insectoid, reptilian. Who knows what the thing really looks like? In my opinion, it's probably a reptilian.
So you make a list of hypotheses. This is obviously not a natural phenomenon, and the extraterrestrial explanation seemed to be the best one. Why shouldn't we know that there's got to be life throughout the universe, so why shouldn't it be able to come here, especially since there must be civilizations there that are thousands if not millions of years ahead of us. But then as you get more and more data, you realize that's not what the witnesses are describing. What the witnesses are describing is something that in many cases comes out of nowhere, disappears into nowhere. There are cases of objects becoming transparent on the spot, physical objects, material objects. And I have no question that people have said, well, Vallée doesn't believe this is physical. Well, of course it is physical. It's material at some times, but it can also change shape. It can also merge with other objects, and it can also disappear on the spot. Well, if it does that, then it could be from anywhere, anytime.
better way to implement a plan to bring about a one-world government than to create the possibility in the minds of the people of the world that we are being threatened from some other species, from some other planet, and do it in a way that if anybody questions it or challenges it or wants to talk about it publicly, that they are ridiculed.
Make no mistake about it, we are in a war against humanity, yourselves, and it's been ongoing for a very long time.
Apparently there was some sort of a confrontation, there was some sort of a war between these beings, sides were drawn up, and we're kind of like, we're almost like cannon fodder in a way. This unseen war, which is happening in another dimension all around us that we don't see. When you go back and you read the Book of Enoch, which by the way is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it amplifies the mischief that these fallen angels got into in and around the time of Genesis 6, which is why it was a global flood, because the Nephilim were on the earth, and these guys were all over the earth.
Is it that there is some kind of archaeological cover-up that has occurred here?
When did this actually stop? If you follow the first level extraterrestrial theory, then ETs, discovered us when the atom bomb went off, and they came here to study us. Well, that's not what the data says. So when did it stop? And I found, an enormous wealth of data going back to medieval times and even before. Of course, as you go back in history, you lose the cultural context, and it's harder to understand the data. But in medieval times, there were records, especially the records of the church, that were kept very, very carefully about strange phenomena. The skeptics are always saying, well, give us your best case and we'll take it apart. There is no such thing as one best case in any field. You have to look at an accumulation of cases and look for patterns, and then that's how the phenomenon reveals itself to you.
The researchers will show you that the messages being received are deceptive in nature. They will tell you things like, well, we've come from Venus or Mars. In the 60s, that was the messages. Well, we now know that's impossible. Now they say they come from Sirius or Orion or Zeta Reticuli or somewhere far off, where we can't test those claims. And that's the problem. And some of the stories they've told us, like that, we know to be demonstrably not true. And if someone comes to you, Chris, and tells you a story and does all these things and says, I'm here to help you, but then does brutal things to you and then lies to you, then I don't think trust is a good place to start.
And for a long period of time, or for a period of time, I believed it was extraterrestrial. I now believe it is interdimensional, the phenomena. In other words, we're looking at so-called spirit beings from another dimension. And I back this up in the new book by equating it to ancient manuscripts where these beings manifested to human beings and what their reactions were, and then comparing it to reactions present day of people who have had encounters, and the similarities are striking.
All the bombardment of the public with movies about flying saucers in the 50s, right after the United Nations Treaty was signed and the UN Participation Act was pushed through Congress, and all of the incidents since that have convinced the majority of the American people that flying saucers are real and extraterrestrials exist, and that flying saucers are from an extraterrestrial origin. This is being promulgated in many ways, by television commercials, in the movies, in the newspapers, by creating incidents either real or imagined.
My point is this: what if the Greys are nothing more than some sort of a biological suit that enables the demons, let's say, to interface in this dimension. That's what I think the Greys are. That's why they're expendable. I'm thinking, I wonder if there's some sort of like a biological clone or some sort of a, you know, a body, if you will, that these demons can interface, inhabit, and then, of course, move about in this three-dimensional time-space continuum.
The main point is that that term is used of angels, fallen angels. And the offspring of those fallen angels with human women has produced a hybrid called a Nephilim. In the Hebrew, the term means the fallen ones. Also, the term is gigantes, which doesn't mean giants. It means earthborn. There was a gene pool problem on the planet Earth.
Is that where the Bible then says that Noah was perfect? He wasn't perfect as
his generations. Verse 9. He was perfect in his generations. The word perfect is tamim, meaning physical defects.
You know, when you see something like that, it's overwhelming. It will change your worldview. And is that the coming great deception that ancient manuscripts warn us of? Here's a prophecy from 2,000 years ago, that what is coming on the earth will be so bizarre that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible.
A number of things that I've heard from people in the Pentagon, that the buzzword in the secret of secrets in the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning, and that's what they're referring to as that whole area that Peter's.
Wow. Can you repeat that again, just in case anybody missed it? The buzzword
in the Pentagon, in the the military circles that are in the know about the cover-up here, they kind of in whisper tones talk about the return of the Sumerian gods, and they're talking about the what we would call aliens or fallen angels returning into the Middle East, into Old Sumer area.
The Anunnaki.
Well, could be.
Under the other ancient names.